We live in a time when leadership is an important part of our lives. Leadership and those that are selected for leadership determine a lot of the details of how we live our lives in the modern world. In today's gospel, Jesus gives us an image of not just a leader, but a Christian leader. Jesus gives us the image of the heart of a Christian leader. He shows us how to govern and relate and serve his people. And so Jesus himself is our model. And sure, we can look at other people in the world or even people on television or in the media. But for us who are baptized followers of Jesus, it is Jesus himself who is our guide as to how we ourselves are to serve other people. In fact, in today's gospel from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 6, Jesus invites his apostles, "Come away by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while." And then eventually he looks at the crowd, and as he sees the crowd, his own heart is moved with pity for them. The Gospels tell us when he embarked and saw the vast crowd, his heart was moved with pity for them. Last month we celebrated the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The Sacred Heart of Jesus, who had compassion and mercy and forgiveness, looking out at the vast crowd of the people. Because Jesus himself is the Good Shepherd, as we heard proclaimed in the responsorial psalm today. "The Lord is my shepherd. There is no one else I shall want." And sometimes whenever I hear that psalm, the phrase is, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," I kind of think that, well, that doesn't make sense, because you're saying, "I don't want my shepherd." But the translation there is, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want anyone else." Jesus himself is the center of who we proclaim as our model of the Christian leader. You and I are called to this in many ways through our baptism. And one of those characteristics of the leader is, sure, you can talk about pity and compassion and mercy as we see in today's gospel. But the heart of the leader here, what I would propose, is that of agape, love. We're all familiar with that famous phrase from St. Paul, "Love is patient, love is kind." Well, I would invite you at some point, as you reflect on yourself as a Christian leader, is to put your name in place of the word love. So-and-so is patient. So-and-so is kind. So-and-so is not rude. And of course, when I first heard that reflection by a friend of mine, I put my own name in there, and I started to think, gosh, I've fallen short of that. And this is why we cannot do this on our own. And in the life of the church, this is why we have the Eucharist and the sacraments to help us be loving and patient and kind, and to be in the image of Jesus. You see, brothers and sisters, that call to leadership as a Christian, to have the heart of a Christian leader, is a call. It's a vocation. It's something that, yes, we may to some extent say, well, I've kind of chosen that pathway, but at the root of it, God is the one that has called you here. God is the one that has called you to that ministry. And so as we reflect on this in the overlife of the universal church, Jesus himself gives us a hierarchical constitution in the church. This is, of the seven sacraments, what we call the sacrament of orders, or the sacrament of holy orders. And the way Jesus has instituted the seven sacraments, in the sacrament of holy orders, there are 3 levels that were divinely instituted by him to govern and serve and love his people. At the highest level of that is the order of the overseer or the bishop. And so whenever you and I hear the word archbishop or cardinal, most of the cardinals are bishops. All of the archbishops are bishops. And sometimes you hear the word Monsignor thrown around, especially in Spanish-speaking countries. A Monsignor or an archbishop is part of the order of the bishop. And then under that, so the Pope himself is a bishop. He happens to be the Bishop of Rome with a unique role to play in the universal church. Sharing in that office of the bishop is what St. Paul calls a co-worker. And the co-worker that is in the order of the presbyter, or the word translated in English is the priest. And so the priest shares pretty much the same functions as the bishop, governing and overseeing God's people. And so you might hear the word Monsignor or somebody that is a pastor, that's a priest, but they pretty much share in the same function of celebrating Mass and hearing confessions and serving God's people. And then at the lower level is the lowest rank is the deacon. And the deacon cannot celebrate Mass, but he can preach, he can baptize, marry people when delegated, and perform other services. So in this level of the Sacrament of Holy Orders, we see a sharing in the office of Jesus Christ in different degrees. When a bishop holds his staff, that's called a crozier. And in that crozier, you can see the symbol of his office. The crozier is like a shepherd's staff. And I've heard bishops explain it in many homilies by saying that on one end of the shepherd's staff, he uses that to gently guide the people with tenderness, like a shepherd guiding the sheep away from danger or to good waters. We hear this in the responsorial psalm, "Beside restful waters he leads me." But on the other tip of that bishop's crozier, that bishop's staff, is a pointed area, because that serves as a way to protect God's people from harm and evil. So on the one hand, the Christian leader is called to protect and nurture God's people. But on the other hand, he or she is called to protect them from the wolves of the evils of the world. In the office of the bishop protects us from false teachings, from bad ideas, from bad morals, and he leads us to sound doctrine and the teachings of Jesus that have come to us through the 12 apostles, especially in matters of faith and morality. Because in matters of faith and morality, the church cannot err when officially teaching on matters of faith and morals. And this office of shepherding, in a way, it comes from even the Old Testament. So, for example, the office of the Jewish priests or the Jewish Levites are the beginnings of how Christianity eventually took on those images. That's the first of the second point in this homily, brothers and sisters, is a reflection on Christian leadership, the heart of the Christian leader. The second of 2 main points in this homily is a very practical application of this. You, Jesus and you. Deacon Juan Morella and I celebrated our 10 years in the Order of Deacon a week or so ago. And one of the things that I reflect on in this time is I've never really shared the story of the first deacon that I've met in my life. And I do this because, whenever I train catechists or leaders or master catechists, one point that I teach them for the past 20 years I've been doing this is a phrase from Pope Paul VI in his letter on evangelization. And it goes like this: the modern world tends to listen to witnesses first before they listen to teachers. The modern world will tend to listen to witnesses first before they listen to teachers. And when they do listen to teachers, it's because they are first witnesses. They first live their life. It's not just this intellectual exercise in their brain that they believe. It's something that they believe deep in their heart. When I was about 16 years old, I was serving Mass at my first parish. And one day a guy came in wearing his stole diagonally like this. And usually the priests will wear their stoles like this, one over each shoulder. But there was one guy that came in, and his name was Deacon Eugene O'Sullivan. And Deacon Eugene O'Sullivan, this was down in Milpitas, where I grew up as a kid at St. John the Baptist Parish. He was a nuclear physicist from NASA, and he was an Irishman from Kansas. And his wife, Lois, would sit in the first pew, and she had a hearing aid. And I don't remember any of Deacon Eugene O'Sullivan's homilies 35 years later, but what I do remember is how he bore witness to his life. I would hold the candle for him at the gospel. I would hand the water and the wine to him as he prepared the chalice. And I just remember him saying, sometimes you'll see us in the supermarket. We pay our bills like everybody else in family life. And I was very struck by his way of life. And it was on December 23, 1990. I was at a celebration dinner with the Legion of Mary celebrating the pastor's ordination anniversary. And somebody from the parish, Brother Edgar, said to me, "Hey, Dennis, have you thought about being a priest?" And I said, "No, I never really thought about being a priest. But that guy at the Mass, Deacon O'Sullivan? Yeah, I kind of like that. I want to be like him." And so the rest was kind of history. And in studies after studies on vocational discernment, studies show that even young men that enter the priesthood because they have seen other priests that they want to emulate. Ministers that enter ministry because they look at other people and they want to see how they can be like what they're doing. And of course, not all the ministers are perfect. And this is why Jesus himself has to be the model. And so as I approach my own 50th birthday and 20 plus years in married life, where I met my wife Tovianne, right over there at that column, the rest was kind of history. We wanted to show people that even though I was not in the priesthood or I was not a religious sister, Tovianne wasn't a religious sister, we can still serve God. Even young families can serve God. You can serve your parish, even though you are going through whatever circumstance you're going through in life. And so there's a popular human wisdom that says, God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And you and I have a call, brothers and sisters, to have the same heart of Jesus, to have him ultimately as our model. And finally, dear brothers and sisters, thank you for letting me reflect on these moments after 10 years. I take to heart today's gospel. Come away by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while. Thank you for this privilege of serving you, your people. And may you forgive us your leaders of our mistakes. May you continue to walk with us together as we accompany each other on the road to discipleship, home to heaven, where Jesus himself is our one and only master and leader and teacher and only good shepherd. And if we ever doubt this, let's turn to his mother. Let's turn to the mother of the shepherd, where she will help us grow closer to her son, because it is better. Mary was not ordained to the priesthood, but yet she surpasses all the angels and all of creation. Let us be like her, the first disciple, where it is better to be holy, it is better to be a saint than it is to be ordained. And if one is ordained, then he should be holy and saintly in the image of Jesus and our Heavenly Mother, Mary. The Lord is my shepherd. There is nothing else I shall want.